Welcome back. The details. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said state is supporting investors and encouraging them to lure more investments. The president's remarks came in his comments on the executive situation of the National Initiative for Developing Egyptian Industry, IBDA, or START, on the sidelines of the inauguration of the second edition of the International Manufacturing Convention exhibition. Details follow.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inaugurated on Saturday the second edition of the International Manufacturing Convention exhibition at the new administrative capital. The event is organized by the Federation of the Egyptian Industries. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Minister of Trade and Industry Ahmed Samir, as well as the host of ministers and senior state officials, attended the event. During the opening ceremony, the president asked the attendees to observe a minute of silence to remember the innocent lives lost of the Palestinian victims of the Israeli aggression on Gaza. President al-Sisi also inaugurated a number of IBDA or START industrial initiative schools, where he was briefed on the initiative's projects. The president also inaugurated a number of technical education schools via video conference. President al-Sisi confirmed his full support for all companies operating in the industrial field, calling for the increase of production to cover local needs. The head of state highlighted the importance of boosting small and medium-sized enterprises, in addition to providing all possible support to establish startup production companies and enhance the Egyptian export of citrus fruits. President al-Sisi also voiced the state's keenness to provide materials needed for the production process, offer facilities and infrastructure for investors to expand the establishment of factories, accelerate the pace of production and reduce red tape. The President said the state has established 15 industrial complexes at the behest of the Trade and Industry Ministry to save efforts and time for investors. He added the establishment of these complexes aim to provide all requirements for the investors and help them kickstart projects and offer new job opportunities.
And to shed more light on the exhibition and on the remarks which were said by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi early in the morning, we are very much delighted to have with us via phone Mr. Ahmed Khattab, our political and economic expert. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you to all of you.
Sir, when it comes to SMEs and when it comes to new startups or new entrepreneurs, I think that they now know that the political leadership is putting them as one of the first priorities regarding the industrial and economic sector. How do you see the remarks which were said today by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi when he said that encouraging investors, encouraging new investments are of the first priority of the state?
Today, our President Fattah al-Sisi attended the opening session of International Manufacturing and Convention and Exhibition Conference held today in Egypt in order to encourage all industrial people in Egypt. Today, our President al-Sisi will send a clear message to all investors to come and invest in Egypt. All investors, even if it's from Egypt or from abroad, President al-Sisi send a lot of positive message about the growing economy in Egypt and about the progress will take place starting from 2024 in Egypt, and send a promise to all Egyptian businessmen working in the field of industry and manufacturing. Please make expansion and growing your business in Egypt in order to create more direct jobs to the Egyptian market, and in order to be dependent on our products made in Egypt, instead of imports of all the products from abroad by US dollars or euro. So nowadays, also a lot of Egyptian businessmen speak through the video conference with our President Sisi and make a wonderful presentation about the future of manufacture in Egypt. A lot of businessmen today also will participate in the exhibition held in the settlement, encouraging the future of Egyptian industry, and a lot of Arab countries from Saudi Arabia, from United Arab Emirates, and also from Europe and some different countries, businessmen participated in this conference in order to start operation with Egypt. The future of industry and manufacturing will be in the field of small and small enterprise, and also in the large scale, especially of the steel and the car industry also will take place. A lot of manufacturing field in the field of glasses, in the field of petrochemical, in the field of oil and gas, and also Minister Engineer Mohammed Swedi sent a positive report about the future of manufacturing in Egypt and how the Egyptian government and the cabinet will support the Egyptian businessmen by raw material and will support by surplus in electricity power.
Financial and non-financial services. Yes, amen to that, sir. Sir, yes, one final question regarding the very fruitful, positive results of such initiatives, IBDA and others. Well, decreasing the unemployment rate, implementing financial inclusion, taking into consideration that the new investors who are invading new markets are going to go on with the support of the public and private sectors, both on equal foot. How do you see this, sir?
Yeah, today we have a speech from IBDA as an initiative, Egyptian initiative, and the role of IBDA in order to support the role of IBDA to support the small and medium enterprise in Egypt, and we already received some success story from key manufacturing managed by IBDA, and think a very positive view of IBDA in order to apply in the other schools and other manufacturing sectors also, and a lot of key industry start the operation with cooperation IBDA initiative. We have vocational training in the schools. We have a lot of many different industries, especially in the pharmaceutical industry and the agricultural industry also. So it will be a wonderful initiative, and we hope all the industry working together with the initiative IBDA in order to make some progress in the future.
Yes, Mr. Ahmed Khattab, our political and economic expert, thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good afternoon. Returning back to our Panorama News. Addressing the ongoing violence in the Gaza Strip, as well as the recent incidents in Taba and in Nuweiba, President Sisi on Saturday warned against any expansion of the conflict in Gaza, saying the region risked becoming a ticking time bomb. He also said his country's sovereignty should be respected after drones were intercepted after entering Egyptian airspace. Speaking at the IMCE opening session, President Sisi reaffirmed that the Egyptian state is fully capable of protecting the country amid the risk of regional escalation from the Israeli war on Gaza. The head of the state, the supreme commander of the armed forces, pointed out that these events are clear indicators of the ripple effects of the escalation in Gaza in the border region. Furthermore, the president expressed his gratitude to the countries that have sent humanitarian aid, underscoring the importance of aligning this aid with needs of the Palestinians. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in which both sides exchanged points of view on the latest developments of the Israeli military operations in Gaza Strip and the danger of the current escalation and its repercussions on the lives of civilians and threat on the security of the whole region. During the call, the head of state underscored the continuation of Egypt's effort to coordinate regional and international efforts to push towards ceasefire, warning of dangerous humanitarian and security impacts of the ground offensive in Gaza. The president also affirmed the necessity of international unified immediate action on the diplomatic level, including implementing an immediate humanitarian truce that saves lives of the civilians and allows humanitarian aid to the Strip immediately without hurdles, in consistency with the UN General Assembly's resolution regarding this issue. The two leaders also hailed the remarkable bilateral relations and strategic partnership between Egypt and India. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi praised the UNGA resolution on Gaza, which called for immediate ceasefire in the Strip. On his official media account, the head of state said that peace-loving countries participated to adopt this resolution. President Sisi also said he hopes for a stop of violence in Gaza, as well as saving civilian lives. The UN General Assembly adopted the Arab draft resolution on the situation in Gaza, which called for immediate ceasefire and the entering of humanitarian aid. Earlier, the Israeli military said Friday it had increased its strikes on Gaza in a very significant manner, as live footage captured intense bombardment of the territory's north. Meanwhile, internet and communications were cut across Gaza Strip. Journalists in Gaza confirm they were only able to communicate in limited areas where they could connect to Israeli networks across the border. Palestinian telecoms provider announced the total cut of all communication services and internet in the territory. Meanwhile, the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres said on Friday that Gaza faces an unprecedented avalanche of human suffering due to lack of food, water, and power during Israeli bombing. He said that before the war, about 500 trucks a day rolled into the seal of Gaza to bring in supplies, but in recent days the average is down to only 12, which enter from the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. Guterres said that the need is now far greater there than at any time before. The UN chief said that without a change to how aid goes in, the United Nations will not be able to keep delivering assistance. Egypt stressed that there should be a firm position towards any attempt to deport the Palestinian people inside their land or to the neighboring countries for the third time in its history under the pretext of protecting the civilians or any other claims. This came in Egypt's statement during the United Nations General Assembly 10th emergency meeting. Egypt also underscored that it will continue its efforts for ceasefire in Gaza and deliver aids for Gaza, in addition to working on the revival of the Middle East peace process. Egypt's representative in the UN also warned of not stopping this war immediately will lead to a destroying regional war. On the ground, the Israeli occupation army announced an expanded ground operation in northern Gaza on Saturday after knocking out communications. The army also announced striking 150 targets underground. The Palestinian death toll passed 7,326, among them more than 3,000 children. We have more details.
The Israeli occupation army announced an expanded ground operation in northern Gaza on Saturday after knocking out communication and creating a near blackout of information in the Gaza Strip, with increased bombardment and artillery fire overnight. The army also announced striking 150 targets underground. Israeli military aviation continues its violent raids after a night that witnessed unprecedented intensive raids on the Gaza Strip, which led to a total cutoff of communications and internet. Israel also launched air, ground, and naval strikes on Gaza and several camps and all areas in northern Gaza Strip. The raids targeted homes and infrastructure, which led to the death and injury of dozens of Palestinians. Explosions from continuous airstrikes lit up the sky over the Gaza city for hours after nightfall Friday, as the Israeli military said it was expanding ground operations in the territory. Civil defense services in Gaza said Saturday that the strikes destroyed hundreds of homes overnight. Mahmoud Basal, a spokesperson for the Gaza Civil Defense, said hundreds of buildings and homes were completely destroyed and thousands others were damaged. He said the intense bombardments had changed the landscape of northern Gaza. Meanwhile, in response, Al-Qassam brigades launched rockets towards Israel following massacres committed against civilians. The Palestinian death toll has surpassed 7,326 people, amongst them 3,038 children. The occupied West Bank, more than 110 Palestinians have been killed in violence and Israeli raids since the war started 3 weeks ago.
Hamas pledged to confront Israeli attacks with full force after Israeli military widened its air and ground attacks on the Palestinian enclave, suggesting on Saturday that a long-promised ground offensive had begun. Israel said on Saturday its troops sent in on Friday night were still in the field without elaborating. Israel had earlier made only brief stories into Gaza during 3 weeks of bombardment to root out resistance fighters. Gaza was under almost complete blackout with internet and phone services cut for more than 12 hours by Saturday morning. Telecoms firms and the Palestinian Red Crescent Society said it was the result of Israeli bombardments. The head of the World Health Organization, to others Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said that the blackout was making it impossible for ambulances to reach the injured in Gaza. Israel said on Saturday it had stopped a surface-to-air missile fired from Lebanon at one of its drones, and the Lebanese authorities issued precautionary guidance in case it has to evacuate Beirut airport as border tensions climb. The Israeli army and Hezbollah group in Lebanon have exchanged fire on a daily basis since the start of the Gaza conflict 3 weeks ago, the biggest flare-up on the Lebanese-Israeli frontier since the two sides fought a war in 2006. In the 2006 conflict, runways at Beirut Rafiq Hariri International Airport on the southern fringe of the Lebanese capital were hit by Israeli airstrikes along with other Lebanese infrastructure. The airport closed at the time. With tension ratcheting up again, the Lebanese authorities issued precautionary guidance for evacuating the airport and surrounding installations in case of emergency. But the guidance did not indicate that there was any imminent threat to the site.